So before I came to the psychology service, in my experience, I'd worked with psychologists before, but never as a client. So my views of psychology was really somebody who'd referred young people to psychology services rather than actually being a person who was involved with the service itself. I wasn't sure what I would get from psychology, but I know the state of my mental health in the ward in particular was suffering. I'd had some really negative thoughts about sort of living with cancer, and I think the medication certainly didn't help that. And I did ask for support from the ward staff around my mental health. Some of my worries, I suppose, when you think about working with psychologists, is that you can be a bit labelled. You know, you can see yourself as sort of being deficient, that you're weak, that you've lost some sort of capability and some way of dealing with your own emotions, that I suppose the other way, from a cancer perspective, that you've possibly given up. You know, you're taught all your life, if you get cancer, you've got to fight it. You've got to be brave, you've got to be strong. But actually, I was really struggling. I had a psychosis in a private hospital during my first cancer operation, and received really no support around that. Then I had a massive blood clot. That's why I came in initially into this foundation trust. I think that the worries about being seen less than I was, and being weak and not being strong enough to deal with cancer, and not fighting the good fight against cancer, was one of the things I was aware of. I think the other side of things as well is family. At the time there was no visitors allowed, and it was quite difficult to sort of have those sort of conversations with your partner or your children. I've got adult children, by the way, around how I was feeling. One of the things I was aware of when I came into hospital was I was seriously unwell. I'd had a large blood clot in my bowel. It had caused my small intestine to start to die. It had gone into necrosis. And the surgeon I saw at another hospital linked to this one said I probably had a 5% chance of survival, which I think when you're given those figures, I mean, I don't gamble, but I wouldn't put a bet on a horse at 20 to 1. And the thought of having a 5% survival rate, and having to say goodbye to my wife in the waiting room of a large accident emergency department when I wasn't going to see her again for, I think it was 6 or 7 weeks, it sort of sets the context of how I was feeling. To wake up after the operation was a surprise. It was a nice surprise to open your eyes and see the daylight again. But the level of, I'll go back to the level of drugs again I was on. They severely impacted on my ability to deal with things on a day-to-day basis. And I think with having that diagnosis, the level of pain I was in, the level of drugs I was on, I was quite negative about my future. And I thought, if life's going to be like this, do I really want to continue? And it was quite a tough time, obviously with no visitors being allowed as well. And I was reaching out for support around my help. I just had hopes that something else might work, because I needed support somehow. And I didn't know what support it was going to be, but I just knew I needed some support to help me through that time. So it was a really rough time. So when the charge nurse overnight it said that he was going to try and get mental health support, I didn't know what it was going to be like. And as far as I can recollect, I was visited by one of the nurses from the psychology service, who probably did an initial assessment of where I was and what was going on. At all stages, Jenny taught me through what she was trying to do, what difference this would make, thinking about how that would create a safe space I could look back, because she was aware I would need a further operation in the future. And she was really skillful at what she did. When I was involved with the sessions, I'm a husband. I've got three grown children, 2 grandchildren, and my wife in particular became very aware I wasn't telling her the truth, and she thought if I wasn't telling her the truth, I probably wasn't telling Jenny the truth as well. And she was right. We've been married for over 40 years, so she was absolutely right. And Jenny approached me in one session and said that Bev had been in touch, which is bang on, what should have happened. And she was concerned I wasn't telling Jenny the truth. And I think it was quite a tough session around sort of opening up to Jenny and talking to her about what my real fears were, and my thoughts around suicide, my thoughts around not wanting to live with this cancer diagnosis, not sure where it was going to take me in the future, was life really, really worth living in this sort of the condition I was then in, you know, in pain, getting used to a stoma bag, probably no thought of any being reconnected in the future to any sort of operation that would fix the situation. I was in a very, very negative place. I think that was the first time that I'd spoke to anybody apart from having those internal thoughts about suicide, was because I didn't want to upset my wife and I didn't want to upset my children, and Jenny was the person I could turn to and have this conversation with. And eventually, with my permission, obviously, you know, Bev became aware of it, because Bev became part of the sessions at the end of it, to my wife to sort of have a debrief at the end of sessions, just to make sure that that my wife was all right, and that the conversation had covered aspects that she was aware of that I possibly wouldn't have told Jenny as well. If somebody said to me that psychology is not for them, I think it would be really, really difficult. I think it's a difficult barrier to get round somebody, because they've got preconceived ideas of what it is. Thinking about, you know, the trauma of a broken leg. When you've got a broken leg, both bones are broken, you can't walk on your leg, you wouldn't say to somebody, go on, run it off. Or you wouldn't try to run it off. You'd realise there was something significant wrong with your leg until you damaged it even further. And I think sometimes being aware that if there's something wrong with your brain, because you've got a mental health problem caused by a variety of things, your brain in some ways being injured. It doesn't mean it's weak. It just means it's injured. And so I think having that open conversation with people really, really helps. When you talk somebody through, you know, if you had a broken leg, you'd see somebody who helps you put a cast in your leg after an x-ray. You might need an operation to pin it, but eventually you'll be on your feet again, you'll be walking again. And I'll possibly use myself as a known example to say, and I'll be very, very honest with people, to say that I was in a really, really bad place. You know, as dark a place as you could ever think you were going to be in your life. And with the skilled help that this service has provided, that they've helped me get through that. And I've now got a family life with my grandchildren. I'm seeing my grandchildren. They're born, one of them. I'm back into work on a part-time basis and trying to make a difference for safeguarding children. I'm seeing friends I haven't seen for a while by going for a ride, albeit at the moment on an electric cycle, but I'll get there eventually. And I think it's given them, you know, I suppose, disclosing a bit of what happened to you, so they could understand what difference psychologists could make. Because it's not just the knowledge they've got, it's the skills they've got as well, the skills and the tools they've got that can help you through this. I can only go back to the saying I said before, that, you know, that Jenny's team saved my life as much as the medical staff, as much as the 3 surgeons who saved my life, and the anaesthetist who really prepared me for the operation so well. You know, they're equally as skilled but different fields of work, and you know, thank goodness they were around. You know, long may they be.